Well, how about that? The U.S. Supreme Court just legalized crime. If you're the president. So, in this video, I'm going to break this insane crap down. I'm going to share some clips. I'm going to quote some legal experts on this. And I'm also going to try to maintain the energy level here, as this is an incredibly depressing story. And I know that I would probably click off this video if I acted depressed while reading about this. So, let's be happy. Let's do some sound drops.
This is truly mental illness.
Oh, it definitely is. It's mental illness. This is some crazy shit going on here. How about, what's this one do?
That makes rational national sense.
That's right. All right. So in a 6-3 Supreme Court majority, a party line vote, 6 conservatives voting in favor of the president doing whatever the hell he wants and facing no repercussions, as long as it's an official act. Now, what constitutes an official act? Who knows? Whatever the president wants to argue is an official act. So basically, you have a madman in there. They can do whatever the hell they want and say, official act. This is a great piece from Ali Mistal in The Nation. I'll link to it below the video. I'm going to quote it throughout this piece, or throughout this video. The president can now assassinate you, officially. Under this new standard, a president can go on a 4 to 8 year crime spree and then retire from public life, never to be held accountable. Sounds great. He goes on to write here, essentially, all he has to do is claim that everything he did to plot a coup, this is speaking of Trump in his case, was part of his official duties, and the Supreme Court provided no clear method or evidentiary standard that can be used to challenge that presumption. And while the Supreme Court says unofficial acts are still prosecutable, and this is what a lot of people who are defending this are saying, oh, don't worry, there's still unofficial acts. You can still go after the president for unofficial acts. The court has left nearly no sphere in which the president can said to be acting unofficially. And more importantly, the court has left virtually no vector of evidence that can be deployed against a president to prove that their acts were unofficial. So there are no defining lines here. The president can claim anything he does is an official act. And as long as he does that and argues that, who's to say otherwise? As Ali Mistal goes on to write here, if trying to overthrow the government is official, then what isn't? Legalizing authoritarianism. Now, some are comparing this to like a king. I guess, kind of, but it's maybe a king, in the traditional sense. But we're talking about a king who also has all the power in politics, who has complete control over what the country does. This isn't just like when people say king, I'm thinking of King Charles, who is not going to be meddling in, UK elections, at least not in the same way that an actual president can and will and has. So this dissenting piece here, or dissenting opinion from Sotomayor is really good. It's shared by Neil Cattell. I'll get to more on him in a second. But as Sotomayor wrote in her dissent, never in the history of our republic has a president had the reason to believe that he would be immune from criminal prosecution if he used the trappings of his office to violate the criminal law. Moving forward, however, all former presidents will be cloaked in such immunity. If the occupant of that office misuses official power for personal gain, the criminal law that the rest of us must abide will not provide a backstop. With fear for our democracy, I dissent. Again, shared by Neil Cattell. This is a Supreme Court lawyer. Here's a piece from him shared by Jay Willis here. Back in 2017. See right there, Neil Cattell. Why liberals should back Neil Gorsuch. This is one of the Supreme Court justices that just voted in favor of this disastrous ruling. I think it's important to bring up context like this just to showcase the dipshits that are brought on TV are dipshits, for lack of a better way to end that sentence. These are the legal experts that are often ones that rise to the top. Ali Mistal is brought on MSNBC occasionally, but he's not he is not the person that most of these networks or most of these newspapers look to when it comes to opinions on this, even though he is proven correct again and again and again and again. They usually bring on morons like this who, while it's great he is sharing this solid piece, solid dissent from Sotomayor, he is part of a larger problem that leads Democratic politicians to not take threats to democracy seriously. So, moving on, here is a great tweet shared by Katie Spaulding. Thinking about how it would be reported if the ex-president of non-Western country was ruled immune from prosecution by a panel of judges he himself appointed. I think it's important to bring in this sort of perspective because when you are in the middle of it, it can often be hard to contextualize or to really understand the weight of what is going on. When you remove yourself from that situation, put it onto someone else, onto a different country in this case, and look at it objectively, you begin to maybe understand a little better why this is such a big deal. And it's, this is the worst country for this to occur because of the amount of power that the U.S. holds globally. Now, this is John Dean, former Nixon White House counsel, discussing how this would have impacted Nixon.
Well, there are actually two rulings in this decision. There's a 6-3 for presumptive immunity, but there's also a 5-4 on you can't even have the evidence of official conduct come to play. This to me appears to certainly influence the existing law on presidential conduct, what's available, evidentiary speaking. Amy Coney Barrett said she didn't think that it should be so restricted as the decision of the court itself was. So I think that Nixon would have survived. I think he would have walked under this ruling. And I'm sifting through all of the known evidence at the time. There's more known today, but just looking at what was in the bills of impeachment, he's not responsible. He has no criminal liability, and that was considered to be one of the elements of a high crime and misdemeanor if a president had committed a crime. Well, there are no more crimes for presidents in official conduct.
So Nixon definitely would have gotten away with it, and what Nixon did is nothing compared to what a president can now do. Take the now classic example of a president ordering SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival. According to the logic of the Republicans on the Supreme Court, that would likely be an official act. According to their logic, there is also no way to prove it's unofficial, because any conversation that the president has with their military advisors, where, for instance, the president tells them why they want a particular person assassinated, is official and cannot be used against them. No ability to look at the evidence, no ability to argue that it's unofficial. It's an official act. They can do it. Let's keep the energy level. This is getting too depressing. Yeah. Let's clap for no reason at all. What else we got here? Great. Feeling very positive right now. All right. This is from Kaylin Collins on CNN. Hat on Trump's lawyer. What do you think he's now arguing? Watch.
So we believe the assembly of those alternate slates of electors was an official act of the presidency. That's what we argued before the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has reserved that issue for determination by the district court, and we'll see how arguments fall in front of the district court.
Trying to steal the election was an official act. Now, look, they will argue this. Some will say, but Jack Smith will argue that it's not official, that it is an unofficial act. Well, even if he wins, they'll appeal it. It'll go to the Supreme Court, and the conservative Supreme Court will rule in Trump's favor next year when he's already president. And who cares anyways at that point? This is the situation that Americans, and by extension, the rest of the world, now have to deal with. Do I have anything better here? There we go. Feeling, woo! It's getting hot in here. Feeling frisky. All right. There is no way to change that outcome in the short term. In the long term, the only way to undo the authoritarianism the court has just ushered in is to expand the Supreme Court. So Elie Mystal goes on to argue the process by which that would have to happen. A lot of things would have to happen. Democrats would actually have to win elections and would have to pass a law, and then would actually have to be willing to expand the Supreme Court. Right now, a majority of Democrats politicians do not support this. So maybe at least start there. They have to support this obvious thing to save democracy and then actually win elections and do what needs to be done to reverse this insanity. Great tweet here as well. This SCOTUS has overturned 40 years of environmental protection precedent, 50 years of abortion precedent, 60 years of affirmative action precedent, and now 248 years of limited POTUS power precedent. And Dems still refuse to even try to expand the Supreme Court or impeach justices. Come on. Yeah, impeachment also. Solid choice here. Elie Mystal tweeting out shorter. So Biden had a speech after that ruling, basically said, oh, this is a threat, and didn't say how he's going to try to deal with this, didn't argue for expanding the Supreme Court, didn't argue for impeaching anybody, just said, oh, this is really dangerous. Yeah, we know that. You were the president. Maybe try and do something about it. But Elie Mystal tweeting out, shorter on Biden, the Supreme Court has given me a gun, but I will continue to use a butter knife. Yeah, that's like, Biden can now do whatever the hell he wants. Does he know this? It's not just Trump that can if he becomes president again. It's Biden right now. Maybe use some of that power. And you don't even have to use that power to support expanding the court, to support impeaching some of these loons. All right, last thing, Joe Biden is doing terribly still. He is losing by even more points, according to Nate Silver's Silver Bulletin. His forecast saying that Trump now leads by 2.7 points in our national average, and Biden's win probability has dropped to 28% from 35% on debate night, saying it's not great news for the president, and he thinks this is just going to keep getting worse. Let's save me, sound drop.
1 and 0 and 2.
That didn't really lift my spirits at all. No. Do we have anything? No, not that again. There we go. Everything is shit, and it's hilarious. Oh, the crowd's just loving it. This shit sucks. They have to replace Joe Biden. And I'm saying Biden has to step aside. It is really on him. They can't just, remove him. He has to decide to leave for them to be able to replace him. That is like a small step in everything else that needs to get done in order to stop this authoritarian disaster. But I don't know. Do you have full faith in the Democratic Party? I know I don't, but it's okay because the crowd is loving it anyways. Here they are again. Everything is fine.